everyone. Welcome to History Fort Lauderdale. I'm here with a number of friends to celebrate the opening of Lisette Morales' new exhibition called Beyond the Shimmering Waters. I would like to say thank you to History Fort Lauderdale and to all of you for being here with us today. We're going to have an hour of beautiful thoughts and celebrations about the water, about Women's History Month. And without further ado, I would like to introduce the Honorable Diva, Reverend Houston R. Cypress, to open us up with some words today.
Hi, good afternoon, friends and family. It's an honor to spend some time with you here. And before anything, I'd like to offer a brief prayer for us to invite the Spirit to join us. And so I'd like to take a moment to address the great mystery, the great Spirit, and this beautiful universe that we have the privilege to be a part of and to express ourselves in these bodies today. I'd like to pray for peace, for tolerance, for joy, and for compassion, and for an opportunity to be of service, not only for ourselves, but for our communities and for the world that we are part of and the universe that we are part of. I'd like to pray for stronger communities that embrace one another. I'd like to pray for a beautiful, thriving environment that we are a part of, that embraces us and cares for us every day. May we honor that, and may we give back in the spirit of reciprocity and joy and healing. And I'd also like to honor the fact that there's a lot of other people that have prayers in their hearts, and to bring those prayers into this beautiful circle that we're a part of. And so it is. Thank you. So in brief, I just wanted to share a couple of comments today and say thank you to the artist, Ms. Lisette Morales, and thank you to the institution, History Fort Lauderdale, today for this opportunity to reflect on the themes of Women's Month and Water Month, and how we can use our visions and our talents to make friends. Because we have a colleague that's going to be speaking a little bit and more at length about some of the projects that we've been collaborating on. But some of the lessons that I've learned in walking alongside people like Miss Betty Osceola and others before is that when we take an opportunity to listen deeply, when we take an opportunity to have each of our steps be a prayer for the earth, like what a radically simple way to make friends with the land. And I'm reminded that we can actually heal with every parts of our body. As we lay our feet gently on the earth, we can bring a prayer of healing. As we embrace one another, as we sing to each other, and as even just by a simple glance, we can bring joy and bring joy and happiness to each other's hearts. And so these are some of the things that I've had an opportunity to enjoy and to deepen as we walk along this land in prayer-based direct action. And so I'm really looking forward to listening to some of the comments that my colleagues are going to share. But I think that this is the opportunity for us. Today is the day. Right now is the time. And the people that are alongside us, these are our comrades. These are our companions. And let's do what we can to build stronger coalitions. Let's do what we can to share our joys and our arts, because these are the beautiful medicines that we are bringing to this place, to bringing to our time on the earth. And so let's support one another, and let's sing with each other, and let's dance when it's appropriate, and let's share our visions. And so I just wanted to say that those are some of the lessons I've learned when walking alongside Miss Betty Osceola and my colleagues here in this event, to listen deeply, to hold each other's hands, but also to tell the truth. As simple as it can be to tell the truth, sometimes there can be obstacles and challenges, but let's continue to speak our truth. Let's continue to share joy, and let's continue to share our skills and our talents with one another, because there's people watching. Not only the next generation is watching, but our relatives in the natural world are watching. The trees, the animals, the plants. So let's bring our best to these places and share this protocol of joy with one another. And so I want to say thank you very much for letting me share prayer and these comments. And I look forward to learning and growing and celebrating with you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Houston. I had to figure out how to unmute myself. There's so many buttons here. It was beautiful, and thank you for bringing us all together in that way and reminding us of all the beauty and the opportunities that we have right now in this moment. So next, without any further delay, I would like to introduce you to the wonderful artist, woman behind the lens, who we are featuring at History Fort Lauderdale this month. Uh, Lisette, I do have your artist statement up here, but I don't know if I can screen share it properly. So I'm just going to hand it over to you, and you can, introduce yourself and share whatever are your thoughts and reflections about the artwork that is so beautifully hanging at History Fort Lauderdale for everyone to see right now. And thank you for collaborating with us on this really important and wonderful exhibition opportunity.
Thank you so much, Tara, and thank you so much to the History for Lauderdale Museum for inviting me to bring this exhibition of 33 photos that were created during the pandemic. And they are about stories of wonderful people who are making history, and and I'm really honored that I was gifted these images and the stories. So I don't feel like I'm taking the photos, but I feel like I was gifted. And some of our friends are here today so they can share their stories. And I'm really thankful to Love the Everglades movement for supporting this project and for financially helping me to print all of the images that they are now on display at the museum. And I'm also really honored to have met all of the beautiful people that I met along the way and in sharing the stories. And in particular, Miss Betty Osceola, who it's one of the women who are making history in South Florida, and all of the other wonderful women that I met in Immokalee and in the Everglades too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lisette. I know that as a photographer, the way that you express yourself, you like to express yourself, is from behind the camera. So thank you for taking a step out and sharing with us in words a little bit about the exhibition. So we have a number of people that some of whom are featured as I hate to say the word subjects, but as Lisette said, some of you who have gifted your us with permission to Lisette to have your images, your faces, your feet, in Betty's case, on the wall at the museum. And so I don't know who would like to speak next, but I guess, I know all of you have some words to share about the exhibition, about, your vision of the importance of Lisette's work, and also the larger work that we're doing here, as Houston said, at making friends, learning to know each other, learning how to work together, because that's, we have to know ourselves. And then we, from that, basis of respect and admiration for ourselves, then we get to learn, use that in order to work with each other. And so in this very, unplanned and organic way, I just want to open it up to whoever would like to say some words next.
Am I unmuted? Can you hear me? All right, I guess I'll go next since my feet are in the display. So I'm Betty Osceola of the Panther Clan of the Miccosukee tribe, and I'm a grandmother. And yeah, himitintangan himingat kan shanabas tiga hochale. Managit hanta ayumo ay hihitik yao namalin. Akan ano siya hihitin so yatalakak. Hita chagalish yolichan ya tachagada inglia ya now naben. Fish akio meted umitong umilita. So shanabas tiga hochale. Thank you for having me here today for this honor to be a part of this project, and also with all these days and years that our relatives see us. When I talk about relatives, I'm talking about everything that Creator and His infinite wisdom created on this natural system that we have. And I'm reminded of that daily because as I was sitting here waiting to speak, I was watching a funnel cloud outside the window of my vehicle here, and I'm out in the Everglades, and the funnel cloud started coming up. And as Indigenous people, we're always taught to show respect to all of Creator's creation around us and speak to them. So I was sitting here speaking to the funnel cloud while I was on mute with the rest of you. And that's the purpose of, people say women are making history, I'm making history. But the way I view my connection with the natural world around us as a natural being, as Creator intended, is to always care for the environment and the way and the guidance that He had taught our peoples. And by doing that, I'm also reminded of my ancestors before us always told us that we have to care for this point in time, and we create our footsteps and our interactions with the world around us. But we also have to ensure that the generations that come behind us also have that opportunity. Because right now we've made our history, we've made our impact, and all the generations that come after us deserve that right to create their history, to create their future. And they also have the responsibility to take care of their point in time for the generations that are going to come on the following years. And you always have to think for many thousands of years to eternity of what is going to happen. So, I've been honored and blessed to be able to listen to the messages around me from the trees, from the water, from Creator Himself, to be a facilitator on how to take care of this wonderful place that has been created for us to exist, and also being honored that being chosen to help being that facilitator to bring His other children back in connection with the world in which we live and with each other, and healing our relationships with the natural world, and remembering that we are a part of, as a natural being, we are a part of the natural world. And we're always taught that the environment around you is a mirror, it's a reflection of you. So today we're seeing an environment that is very sick, and it needs a lot of healing and prayer. And that is a reflection that the children, the natural beings that are existing, are very ill. All this hatred and anger and animosity towards each other and the environment in which we live is a cancer. So as a cancer needs healing. And by doing that, we can do that through prayer and making a conscious effort to pay attention to those footsteps, those breaths that we take. And as Houston mentioned before me, even the glances that we make towards each other. And each other is not just a two-legged, but it's the water, the birds, the trees around us, how we view those. Because whatever we cast out to the natural world reflects back at us. And as we share our space with each other, we take in that breath, we breathe in that breath of other individuals and everything around us. So if of all those breaths that are given out are toxic, we're consuming, ingesting that toxic breath and making ourselves toxic. And we'll turn around and spew out that same toxicity. But if we breathe and speak and walk and conduct ourselves in a way that is very healing very mindful of each other, then that's the breath that we're putting out. So that when we're sharing space with others, they're consuming that healing, they're consuming that love, which in turn they'll start embodying that love and come back to a way of living in harmony with themselves. And actually, in doing the prayer walks, I see it as a way for those who walk with myself and others to ground themselves. Because like a tree has roots, it grows from the earth, gets its nutrients from the earth, it grows tall, it lives its life cycle to reproduce, to continue on those cycles. So in walking, we ground ourselves with the earth. And especially if you can walk with your shoes off, your feet have that opportunity to get that nutrients and healing from Mother Earth herself, to get grounded and grow roots so that you can be a stronger natural being, a healthy natural being, to go through your life to foster that caring with the environment. And as a woman, I understand my purpose is to foster life, help care for life, help love for life, to be strong when needed, and also to remind the rest of humanity what is really important. To remind them, are you going to just exist? Or are you going to choose to live? And as women, we have great responsibilities that we were given by the Creator. Just like men have great responsibilities that they were given. And as Indigenous people, we're always reminded that the woman is the heart of the home, just like Mother Earth is the heart of the home. And we have to not be ashamed that we're women, and not be ashamed of who we were created to be, because Creator puts you on this place in this point in time for a purpose. And sometimes that purpose throughout the years may change for whatever Creator you need you to be at that point in time. And it's not for us to reject it, but to embrace it and understand that we're a part of a bigger picture that is occurring. And it's not about me, it's about we, as that piece of puzzle that creates Mother Earth. We all have an important role. And once, for myself, I realized early on that I was fortunate that Creator thought I could carry the goals that He had for me to follow through with, and that my feet were strong enough to do what needed to be done. So thank you for this time. And thank you for Lisette for capturing the essence of the individuals and the movements and this journey that we're all walking on. So Shanabish Chigachali.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Betty, for sharing your words and that beautiful reminders and perspective for what we can do to, improve our lives, individually, as families, as communities, and as a human family. It's really, really awesome. Thank you. Lisa, did you have any reflections that you wanted to add at this time about the specific pictures that we're not showing on the screen right now? Okay. Well, I'm still trying to figure out if I can actually share some of the pictures that are up at the museum, and I haven't really been able to figure out a great way to do that at this moment. But if there's anyone else who would like to share some words or some reflections at this time, then that would be great. Or if Lisette, if you have someone specifically that you wanted to ask that would be great too. That's actually one from last year that Holly just brought in. Beautiful. Thanks, Holly. Yeah, so who's gonna share some words next? I'm gonna stop talking and play around with my computer screen again. I'll try not to screw it up too much.
Don't be shy, my friends, because I'm going last. So one of you goes next.
Well, happy International Women's Day, and I'm really honored that I got asked to come here to speak. And I always, at all times, raise and praise Lisette Morales' work. And if you haven't seen this exhibition, she's got a website, and you can go there and you can see all of her works and her previous works. She is divinely guided as an artist, as a photographer, as just a creative being in this world. And my name is Tamara Paquette. I'm the past president of the Democratic Women's Club of Collier County. I'm on the board of Coalition for Quality Public Education, and I'm one of the founding members of Showing Up for Racial Justice of Southwest Florida. And one of the things on International Women's Day, I'm going to talk about a sticky subject that most people don't want to talk about, but I'm going to, because as a white woman, we have to address not only ending patriarchy around the world, because it's throwing our planet out of balance, but we also have to remember that if we're talking about race and International Women's Day, we don't want it to be International White Women's Day. We want this to be International Women's Day of all colors, of all races. We need to not only end and crush patriarchy, we also have to end white supremacy. And white supremacy is devastating to our society, to our earth, to our relationships. And like Reverend Houston was just talking about, it's about connections. And white supremacy is a plague, and it is destroying the fabric of our interpersonal relationships. So with Lisette Morales' work, one of the things that we want to identify in the art world is most of the art that we see when we go to an art gallery is by men. And that disparity is pretty blatant. And then on top of it, when we do see work by females, by women, right? How many women of color or how many indigenous women are being elevated and being shown? So let's just be mindful going forward. You know, we can't change what happened in the past, but going forward, we can work together as one human family to make sure that all voices are recognized, all input comes in, and that in all spaces, not just politics, not just in education, not just in the environmental movement, because if you look at the environmental movement right now, the people that are really carrying the ball forward are women. And if it wasn't for talented artists and photographers like Lisette Morales, who take the time to use their skills to document this movement, I mean, if you don't get a picture of it and it's not up on Facebook and on Instagram, nobody knows that it happened. So she's chronicling what's happening. She is documenting this. So as an indigenous woman, as a woman of color, as a Latina, and as a photographer artist, I honor and I raise and praise her work. And I hope everyone takes the time today to see her work and also her previous works, because they are speaking to the times that we're living in, but the work that she does is timeless. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tamara. Greatly appreciate those words and the context, and that encouragement that really that only you can do. There's, especially now and since this summer, there's been a lot of attention, and I think more awareness that than I've ever seen in my lifetime. I was born in 1972, just after the bulk of the civil rights actions that happened in the 60s, and just at the beginning of the desegregation of schools here in South Florida. And so I really welcome hearing for the first time really a bunch of European descended allies begin to self-identify as white folks, to rather than the regular folks and all the rest of us are the others. Like it's really good because all of our history is important, and it's not up to me to dismantle a system that is still oppressing me. So it's really good that that there are allies, and that we're we are working really hard to work together and figure out a way forward that is going to respect each other and all of life.
Sure.
And so thank you for making that making that clear, and also for sharing a little bit more with us about Lisette's work.
Thank you. And I wanted to say something about the title, that it's Beyond the Shimmering Waters. Shimmering Waters is the translation for the name in Mikosuke, of Bright Waters from the Mikosuke language, and it's Reverend Houston Cypress translation. That I saw it, that he said that a few years ago in a film, and I thought that is so beautiful, because when I think of the Everglades, I think of the beautiful shimmering waters. I think of Houston, the disco ball, so when I was thinking about what title I could use, I asked him, do you mind if I use your translation, because this a lot of the stories, all of the stories in this project, and in this exhibit, it's what we learn in the Everglades and beyond, how we carry that and beyond. I see, Captain Planet. I love watching like everything that he's doing. I see what Jackie's doing, with her work in the gardenings, what Lupita is doing, what Tamara is doing. So those are the stories that I'm compelled, to document, like what happens, beyond the shimmering waters, how we carried our lessons and how we go in the world and what we do to make it a better place. And if you guys could share some of the stories from the walk, or from the Everglades, or from Immokalee, that would be great.
Well, I've never been good at being shy. Can you guys hear me? Awesome. Well, my name's Garrett. Everybody knows me as Captain Planet. I'm just a simple living being, like what Betty is always saying, just being a living being. I don't, I spend so much time with nature that I no longer identify with really anything associated with the two-leggeds, other than I walk on two legs, just like a bear does. But I'm really happy to be here in support, and help honor women, because I don't think enough men do that, especially us manly men. And for whatever reason, people will look at me like the epitome of a manly man. And if that's the case, then I hope they take note that I listen to women. I respect women. I was raised by a single woman. Mother Earth, Big Mama, she's a woman. That's the spirit of a woman, not a man. So by understanding her, usually I have to understand the women around me to better understand her. But sometimes we men think a little bit too much with our testosterone. And that's why in the native cultures, women are calling the shots, because they realize, we men sometimes think a little bit stupid. We get a little angry and we get frustrated and things like that. So, I hope that if people do look up to me for whatever reason as a role model or something for kids to look up to, I certainly hope that they take notice, that I always try to respect women as much as I possibly can. In my tribe, there's a sacred right for a girl to become a woman. There's no sacred right for a boy to become a man, though. And that's because we men never stop becoming men. We're always trying to learn how to become men. And if I ever open the door for you, trust me, I know that you're strong enough to open that door for yourself. But by me opening it for you, it reminds me as a man what my role should be. And that's to look out and open some darn doors, you know. You watch me, I'll open the door for a dude too. I don't really care, but we need to be more compassionate towards each other, you know. And sometimes I feel like we humans, we're good at getting kind of tricked, you know. We're good at getting tricked about things with racism or things with sexism, and if you look at that, that's only existing in our own species, you know. The homies, you know, my plants and animal friends, they don't give two hoots what color you are. They don't care what sexual organs you have or what sexual organs you wish you would have had or all these different things, you know. And there's not all that judgment. There simply just is what is. There is no right or wrong in nature. There is no good or evil. It's just what works out and what is. And I appreciate those lessons, you know, because it's food, water, shelter, and sleep. 4 things that we need. And as human beings, we made those 4 things so easy that we spend the rest of our lives worrying about stuff that doesn't even matter. We're no longer concerned about if our water's clean or if our food has poison in it. You know, it seems like the only thing we're concerned about is upgrading our shelter and catching a couple more hours of sleep. But, you know, you sit out there with Big Mama, you know, out in them Everglades. She's soft on the eyes and she's a hymn on the hearing, you know. I caught myself crying last night when I left there because a little piece of me always has to stay because she always shakes the frost right off my soul. Mother Jungle, you know, the Everglades. It's so beautiful down there. You know, and if people don't stop doing what they're doing and start caring, showing compassion towards the homies, towards Big Mama, you know, then we're gonna be in some problems. And the problems will be so big that racism and sexism and things like that will no longer even matter. You know, so I encourage us all to try to take another step back, you know, and really take a look at nature. She doesn't act that way, you know, so I wonder why we do. Might be worth thinking about. But I'm really glad to support our women, to support my Aunt Betty Osceola, the Panther Clan of the Miccosukee Nation. It's important to me. It's probably the only time you'll ever see me get real nasty is if you cross that woman or one of these gals on this page. I'll go bulldog. Thank you, ladies. Thank you for always being there. Thank you for feeding me. Thank you for braiding my hair. And thank you for keeping my moral compass always pointed north. You know, I'll always take my orders from the women and the kids because they know far better than us men. I realize that we get a little off in the head when we get angry. Love you guys. Thanks for letting me be a part of this. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Captain Planet. Very, very.
You mind if I say a few words in support of what he said? You know, he makes a point, which it's and I post about it on my Facebook, and is, you know, some because I grew up in the Everglades in a natural area. You know, I talk about alligators and birds and the different animals all the time and how we learn by watching nature. That's how indigenous people are taught to learn. We're always taught the lessons in life. If you want to know how to raise your children, watch how the animals take care of their children. If you want to know how to survive, watch how the animals survive, and learn the weather patterns for the seasons, not from the weatherman on TV who always gets it wrong. But when I post about, nature doesn't care if you're a Republican, Democrat, man or woman. Nature is going to coexist with each other, and nature is the only thing that will not judge you, and it will accept you as you are. But when I post about that, I see disconnected people trying to think, oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about, and they try to give this big, highly educated, dead building education explanation of what I don't know. And I read those comments. I'm like, you got a dead building education taught to you off of dead paper. And if we go back to nature and watch a living system and how a living system interacts with each other, you know what is important. If you're out in nature, the tree could care less if you're a Republican or a Democrat. It could care less if you know what house or car you drive. That bird could care less. It sees you in its area. It might get scared, or if it knows that you don't mean it harm, it'll stand there and it'll actually walk up to you. It will accept you as you are. The two-legged animals are the only ones that are so judgmental about each other. In indigenous culture, we don't label anybody or anything. We accept them as they are. But as our younger generations grow up, they're starting to make other societies' ideals their own and being judgmental. And Creator gave us a path in life, and we're supposed to stick to that path because that's how we're supposed to take care of that portion of Mother Earth. Help Him take care of Mother Earth. Yet we get caught up in all this nonsense that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't. If you quit the nonsense and go back to what's important, you'll start solving all those other things. Because if you can't address the minuscule thing, how the heck do you plan to tackle racism when you fail to teach the very basic thing is to be a decent natural being in a natural world? If we teach our children that, then all these other issues will start resolving itself. Because if we don't teach our kids to love themselves, to respect Mother Earth, respect each other, and they respect the right that they deserve to live in a healthy, safe Mother Earth in harmony with everything else. Like the late William Buffalo Tiger always said, if everyone would just love each other, the world would be a better place. That's a very true statement. And if we keep putting this anger and this division and these labels out there, how are we going to love one another to have Mother Earth be a better place? So we have to quit creating divisions. And words are very powerful. Creator gives you what you want. If you keep talking about war and famine and disparities, in a way, you keep asking, you want to have war, famine, and disparities in these issues. But if you start, that's why I pray. And that's why I say prayer is an honest conversation with Creator. You start talking about how things are beautiful, how there's love, focusing on all of that. You start the kids watch you. Teach them how to be a better human, in your words, a human being, but my words, a natural being. That's how we're going to start making these changes. Because at the end of the day, all those fabricated issues are fabricated issues. And I'm sure there's somebody probably out there telling me I don't know what I'm talking about. But things happen in waves. There's always someone coming. And I'm going to put it out there. We talk about how we're being held back. I don't allow anybody to hold me back. They can say whatever they want, but my mother always said, if you know who you are, it doesn't matter what words comes out of anybody's mouth, because you know who you are, and what you know yourself to be is what is important. And I can say, I'm underserved, underprivileged, and I'm being discriminated against. But you know what? They're the ones who are ill, who need to get healing and need to get help. And I have to pray for them. But I don't see myself as someone that has to have this generational trauma. Yes, it happened. There was trauma, but we have to move on and not use that as a reason to hold ourselves back. We have to conquer and go on. and make our situations better. And maybe by being those examples, other people will start following those examples. But if we keep talking about how giving all these reasons of why we can't do something, then we're not going to be able to do something. We have to turn that message around and move forward, because you can't get stuck in the past. You have to, it's the past has happened. You have to move forward and keep on going forward. But I keep seeing people wanting to go backwards and undo what happened years ago. You're not going to do it. It happened, acknowledge it, teach about it, but move forward in a better direction. Thank you.
May I follow? Betty, you're so amazing. Jacqueline Yates, I'm a person who wears many hats. And I want to speak into some of the things that Betty had just said, but also from our perspective of my time with her during this walk and also with Lisette. And I wrote one small bit. I wrote, Florida is a state of water. From Georgia border to the Keys, water flows above, on, and below the land we dwell on. Water is the ultimate unifier. No human can survive more than several days without clean, drinkable water. Betty just said that words are important, they matter. And I really pick up on what things say. You know, when people say things, that they echo sometimes. And one of the phrases she said was, if you feel called to. And I felt called to assist. And from my perspective, I wasn't going to be able to do the walk because of an injury. And so I used one of my other hats and my other talents, and I provided food and support and hydration and, you know, medical where it was available and needed. One of the things, and I've been a person that obviously has had a suburban and urban experience in my lifetime, but as a woman and as in a harshly judgmental society, I've always sought my solace in nature and on the waters. You know, when I cut the engine off and I can be able to glide somewhere, anywhere, I can actually feel at peace. And so when we came together for this walk, I came with actually a lot of despair in my heart. You know, I'm very, very aware of all these environmental issues that impact our entire state and that ultimately flow down. And yet, here's Betty in her just infinite grace and talent, bringing this extraordinarily diverse group of people together in present and virtually to heal. And what I found for myself as I try to work out these logistics, like how do I provide clean water and clean food and clean dishes and like be able to intersect all the moving parts. I also had the opportunity to sit on the water's edge, you know, and I got the opportunity to watch the storm rises on the horizon and the birds fly and the wind on my cheek, and just take that inspiration of every single one of us has the ability to inspire larger and better and bigger. And it's every single day, every day is a new day. And where my intersection with Lisette is absolutely a beautiful human being as well, was her moment of capturing, you know, be like, hey, look at this, click, 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 click. And the next thing you know, you see this really, really beautiful capture of life, you know, and I just found that such an organic flow. Betty would take the morning and ground us and remind us no matter what was happening, we're here with intent. And the basic of that intent is awareness. And without awareness, we can't change the world to be what we would like it to be. And I commend you, Lisette, for using your artistry to capture something that was a moment in time, But it's something that I think for anybody who's involved in this is deep in our hearts now. I stand in awe of all the walkers, and I was very, very, very much in a state of gratitude of being able to serve and also to meet everyone involved. And so thank you, Betty. Thank you, Lisette. Thank you, Garrett. Thank you, everybody. And yes, I think I'm complete.
I think maybe Lupita, maybe you have something to say. Yeah?
Lupita, you are unmuted, but we're still not hearing you for some reason. So I don't know if there's if your mic is all the way turned on, but we can see you fine. But for some reason, we weren't able to hear you. If you don't see anything that's working, we can remove you from the screen and you could try signing back on, because when you first sign on, there's a little thing that says mic, use the mic from the computer or use another mic. And so sometimes there's that step. So say test.
Test.
Yes, you're good now. Yes.
Okay, I did something. I clicked something and I guess it worked. I'm Lupita Vasquez Reyes, and I'm here with my mom, Cristina. We call her Casa, which means home in Spanish. It's a long story, but it started with her first granddaughter, my oldest. Just that was her first word, and started calling my mom Casa. So saluda, mommy.
Start with Kasha.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you.
So it's kind of I've been listening to everybody and just enjoying the time in the space. But one of the things that I start having like some awareness of what I'm feeling as I listen to everybody's wisdom and perspectives and thoughts, and I try to pay attention to what I'm feeling in my body. And a lot of times in spaces like these where we're talking about the amazing ways in which regular human beings step up to serve others, right? Because essentially, whether that's serving the earth or being in service to others, we give a lot of ourselves and there's vulnerability. And so sometimes these spaces can feel like a therapy session. And so there's emotions that are brought up and then you feel it in your body. Sitting here with my mom, which we don't often get to do together, since we're always moving, always in service to others, our family, our kids, our environment. But I think it's important. And one of the things that I've felt with Lisette has been, and I've told her before, and I know we've talked to other people, is the way that I see her as a bridge builder. And that's a really important thing. And I support her in her work. But in all honesty, there's a sense of, I guess, a little bit of fear of being vulnerable and of having my story told or sharing even what I'm doing, on a bigger platform or on a social media stage, because you don't always think that you're getting it right. And you don't always think that what you're doing or who you are as a person really needs to be shared with everybody else, until you start getting connected in ways that knowing Lisette has been able to get me connected and my family and the work that we're doing here in Immokalee through the garden. And then you start realizing that as you build connections, as you meet people like Betty Osceola, Holly, Tamara, really everybody on this panel, you feel seen. And that's a really important thing. But it's also very exposing, right? And so I just wanted to say thank you to that. And that when you're looking at the images of myself and my daughter at the first walk at the Everglades, or my mom here in her house, or, with our fruit trees or our plants that we have in our yard, you're really catching a glimpse of regular people trying to do the best that they can for their community, healing for themselves, and just trying to find the right path, that we have been given as human beings. So we come from a history of being immigrants coming to this country. My mom came in the late 60s, early 70s. And early on, as farm workers here in Immokalee, they were involved in organizing for labor rights for farm workers, really compelled by faith leaders that were locally here, and also organizers that were coming from up north who, had also organized union work in places like Chicago and Ohio and parts of the East Coast. And so I really grew up. I was born in 1978, and I was really thrust into this environment of people that wanted to advocate for, against injustices, against people like Cesar Chavez. Yes, my mom actually had him here sleeping in a very humble place, took a quick nap before he was moving on to go organize in Homestead way back in the 70s. But I grew up in that environment. So for me, I always remember being 8 years old and just feeling very engaged in what was going on, and seeing myself in the faces of other farm workers or other people that looked like me, that shared maybe my family's same trajectory from parts of Mexico, having to leave because of loss of land or, economics or foreign policy that had kind of forced migration. And so all of those things were never lost on me in needing to speak truth to that power, right? And in speaking truth to the things that needed to change. And so for me, even now at 42, nature plays a huge role in that sense of consciousness, because it is the place where I feel the most like myself, or the most at home, or the most connected and just real, purposeful. But I continue to be involved in social justice, and we continue to be involved in social justice and be advocates for our community, because we understand that humans really aren't always like nature. They get it wrong. There are missteps, and they're corrupted in their spirit. And so when I speak truth to that, when I call people out, when I step into those arenas of vulnerability, where you either choose to speak out, right, and call somebody out on that, it's a huge choice, because yes, nature embraces us, and it's much easier. I don't have to step into that warrior spirit of having to call out injustice when I'm in nature. I'm accepted, and I feel at peace. But in this material world, in the world that we've been assimilated to, from our own culture, our own, more indigenous roots, where consumerism and economics and things like that are more in focus, then there is a sense of needing to speak out and kind of challenge the status quo. And that's something that I've always gotten from my mom. I mean, everything from being conscientious about, saving water, or, recycling, and just things that you don't need to buy that. I think that's always been my mom. That's always been the focus. And so when I connected with Lisette, I said, my mom's tough. I said, my mom doesn't, you can come and take pictures, or you can come and meet her, but ella está mirando. She's always watching how people step into themselves and act authentically, or speak authentically, because to her, it is the basic things. It's the basic things of having food and shelter and and being able to survive to the next day, while not taking from others more than more than what you have. So today is really important as International Mothers or International Women's Day to feel this connection and to share this space with her. And I'm going to ask her in Spanish if she wants to say anything. ¿Quieres decir algo en español y yo te lo puedo traducir?
No, pues ya dijiste todo.
She
You
said,
say everything what I can say.
She said I said everything that she wanted to say, but
No, because if I start talking, then I cry and then I don't say anything.
right. And her and I are both in that way. I think that when we always feel compelled to say a lot of things, but it really can make us really emotional. And I don't know, some people might think that that's some weakness, but I think for us, we feel it very deeply when people are wronged or when we see people abusing, their environment and the world that we live in. But mostly, I think what motivates my mom and I is our role as mothers. We want to leave a legacy of consciousness, right, for who we are as human beings and who we are as community members, and we want that for our children, just to raise them consciously. So I appreciate and I support Lisette and all of you in the ways that you have built bridges for other people and for each one of us, and that's really all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Lupita. Y gracias, Casa, también.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I think our time is coming towards a close, and I am going to offer a little prayer to close this session. But at first, I just want to speak my deep love and appreciation for my friend Lisette Morales, and my deep love and appreciation for my friend Betty Osceola. And actually, it's because of Betty that I met Lisette in the Everglades in Big Cypress, when Betty invited me a number of years ago to come and offer a water prayer for all faiths to join in the Everglades. And Lupita, I love it that you talked about Cesar Chavez and also the work of the Coalition of Immokalee Workers and the struggles for equality in the fields and for workers. Today is 100 years almost anniversary of 1,500 women walking in the streets for fair labor wages for women. And that's the beginning where International Women's Day came from. 1,500 women in, I believe, New York walking down the streets. And a few years later, women all over Europe of every color got out in the streets, banging pots and pans, saying, we want equality for women to vote, for women to be able to work alongside men as equals, and for them to not have to be kept as prisoners and be hurt inside their kitchens. So I'm going to offer a prayer of gratitude now to all the women that came before us, to our grandmothers, to our mothers, and for our daughters. I give thanks for all the Indigenous grandmothers that have come together over the last 20 years and put out a call for each of us as women, as we grow older, to step into being grandmothers, to learn to be good elders, no matter what color our skin is. We have wisdom, we have our stories to share. And so I give thanks to our great mother, Gaia, our Pachamama, Mother Earth, for calling us back to nature. The kind of activism that we need right now in the world. Oh, Great Spirit, and oh, Mother Earth, we know we cannot be effective as warriors, as peaceful warriors, as peacemakers and activists, unless we know nature, unless we immerse ourselves in your beauty, unless we pray with water every day. So let us all go forth this day in gratitude that we have water to drink that is clean. Let us give thanks for the water. Maybe turn on the water for a moment when we wake up every morning. Thank you, water. Thank you, water. How can I help heal you? And how can I help heal my relationship with you and with nature? How can I help heal my relationship with all my relations, with all the women in my life, women among women, with all the men and boys in my life? How can I help boys and girls grow up to love and respect themselves? This is my prayer. I am grateful. I send out this prayer of gratitude because you are showing us the way. And you are showing us the way so much through our grandmothers, through the wisdom of mothers and grandmothers, of nurturing their children, of nurturing plants, of nurturing a seed. So today, International Women's Day, we give thanks for all the women and for the spirit of woman that is rising now, not just women physically rising up into leadership and into self-appreciation, but for the feminine that is rising in our brothers and the men, like Captain Planet here and like Houston Cypress. I give thanks and I give praise to the feminine in all of life. Today we honor her, and I honor Lisette. Lisette's art, her photography is humble. And so I give thanks for humility. I give thanks and I ask for us all to have more humility, to put ourselves back behind the lens a little bit, like Lisette, to really listen and to watch nature and each other. Lisette, I give thanks for you. I love you so much, my friend, and all of you. We are one family, and we all contributed to the walk, right? We all contributed to the walk in many ways, and one of the most beautiful ways, and Captain Planet Garrett has talked to me about this, but one of the ways that we can pray and to honor those that pray for us is to feed them good food. So I connected spiritually with Jackie during the walk, and it was really awesome to be a part of offering the final meal for the walkers. So I offer you all food. I wish you food and nourishment and water from the bottom of my heart. And I thank you all. And I think Betty, she's gone off camera, but she always hears me. Always hears me. We're connected so deeply. So I say now, thank you. Gracias a la vida. Gracias para la agua, el agua. Y gracias para esta comunidad. Thank you for this community. Thank you for this water that connects us all. Amen. Aho, ashe. Blessed be. Thank you, Lisette. Thank you, Betty. Thank you, Tara, for having us all. Thank you, Tamara, for taking care of us all. Thank you, Lupita y Casa, for all your work.
Absolutely, Holly. We got to give, a big round of applause for Tara Chadwick for putting this together. Hey,
Absolutely.
Technological queen, artist extraordinaire. Well done, Tara.
And I wanted to, before we go, I wanted to thank one person that is behind me, Sean.
Oh, I see you now, Sean.
And thank you so much, Betty, Captain Planet, Jackie, Tamara, Lupita, Christina, Holly, and Tara. Thank you so much. Appreciated you guys being here and supporting me. Thank you.
We love you. You're amazing.
Love you so
Great
much,
job.
Lisette.
Before we wrap up, can we give some overall details about the show? How long? How much?
Oh, good idea.
Where?
Yes, I have that information. Sort of. Let's see. Banner. So somewhere I have a banner. Here it is. Ticker tape. Show. All right. So you can go to historyfortlauderdale.org for all the details and information. It's at the bottom of your screen there, History Fort Lauderdale, all one word, .org. I also definitely want to say thank you to the Broward Cultural Division as well for their ongoing funding of History Fort Lauderdale. Also to Culture Builds Florida. This week is also Art Week at the Capitol here in Florida. So, we all know how important art and culture is to our well-being, in addition to nature. And so definitely this is a great week to let your legislators know that you think that art and culture is important and that they should fund the 743 grant applications that are part of the budget for this year that came through the Florida Cultural Affairs Department. Every year we go through this, we write grants for great projects and ideas, and then they get vetted by a panel, and then they may or may not get funded by the legislature. So this is definitely the week to let your legislators know that it's important. We rely on each other to keep ourselves healthy and happy, and also to be able to bring nature into the city, or to have some of these experiences and collaborations. So also, thank you to the trustees at History Fort Lauderdale. They're the ones who ultimately, make all the decisions about how our organization is able to move and grow, and and build help participate in building those bridges throughout our community. They're the ones who support the museum's desire to become a hub, a place where we can come together safely and and share and learn and and build together. So the exhibition, I still didn't really figure out how to share my screen successfully. So if you go to historyforlauderdale.org, you'll find a little beautiful graphic that has the dates. The show is on right now. The museum building, we have 5 buildings at our museum, and Lisette's show is in the main building, which is also known as the New River Inn Museum of History. It's open from 10 till 4 every day. It's actually free to see the exhibition, but if you're going to make the trip, I highly suggest that you also take a tour. There's guided tours at 1, 2, and 3 every day, but you can also, if you need to go in the morning because you live out of town and you need time to travel back, you can always call and make an appointment to have a tour at any time of the day. I think it's $10, $15 for a guided tour. I definitely recommend the guided tour. Also, you can view this. This will stay up here on YouTube, so you can view this anytime, and we'll be putting out a link so that you can share that on your social media pages. And also, we're planning to do another virtual event like this on April 22nd. So on Earth Day. So definitely sign up for that. The link will be available within the next couple of weeks or so. Thank you again to Lisette for sharing her life. Thank you to Sean for helping us hang. Thank you to all of you guys for being here. And you guys can all unmute your mics, and we'll close it up.
Beautiful. Don't forget, also, if you do get a chance, go to LisetteMorales.com so that you can see all of her previous works before. That's her little commercial, because she won't do it for herself. But LisetteMorales.com. Got her previous
I'm going to send you the check later, Tamara. I'll send you the check.
I have that here too. Yeah, show. There we go. There we go. Yeah, that's the that's the place where I was going to try to share these pictures from. But anyways, yeah, you guys can just go on it and look now.
She's amazing.
We will. They're awesome.
I wanted to add real quick because I was talking about Lisette being a bridge builder, but definitely to have images, from Immokalee essentially at Fort Lauderdale, I think that's kind of really significant because she's built that bridge, scenic bridge through the Everglades over to the East Coast. And I mean, I don't know that much, obviously, of the history of all of this land, but I do remember my dad always saying, this was all indigenous land here, Seminole, Miccosukee. So it's like a bridge, where we don't always get to know what they're doing on the East Coast, and they don't always get to know what's happening in Immokalee. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, it is really important because during the time when the city itself was being founded, it was all agricultural land and Seminole and Miccosukee land. It was agricultural. It was a big plantation, a big forest.
So this is one of the things that I'm praying for now, is that we relearn how to grow food, so that growing food actually not only feeds all the people, but it feeds the land back. If we learn how to grow food right, we're going to get our water right too. So that's what I've been focusing on in the last year, is regenerative agriculture and getting people to grow food in their neighborhoods and share and trade food with each other. And it's really rewarding. Planting seeds and growing your own food is so beautiful. So
another kudo to Lisette before we close. Most folks don't know this, but during the beginning of the pandemic, we were all watching Holly and Liz trapped on a boat for a month, and it was very scary. And then one of the hot spots for COVID was Immokalee, and Lisette very bravely, with Cat Chase, they went out to Immokalee and they started documenting and taking pictures. And because of her bravery, because of her foresight because of her willingness to put herself in the trenches, taking photographs, those photographs went around the world. And then we realized that, boy golly, our essential workers, our sacred farm workers, were at the greatest risk for catching COVID and passing away from it. And so Lisette Morales, we're going to give you credit for that right now, and it's going down. It's on YouTube now, so it's for real. Lisette and Kat, they took the photographs that made essential workers in Immokalee and their plight famous in Immokalee and around the world. So well done, Lisette.
Yeah. They brought the CDC field office right to Immokalee. So thank you, Lisette. There's so much activism that can come out of art, out of music, photography. So I thank all the artists.
Isn't it interesting how COVID, even though it's separated a lot of us, it's kind of brought us together. So there's some pluses for technology.
That was part of my prayer that I was going to say, but the words didn't come out. But I was actually I wanted to thank COVID, for teaching us. It's Mother Nature trying to balance herself. And so COVID coming is teaching us to step back, teaching us to listen to each other, and teaching us not to mess with nature either, not to mess with little critters. It's teaching us many things, and we still haven't learned our lessons yet, so we still have to stay in our room a little bit. But one of the things that COVID has taught us, has made us do, is to protect our elders. I've had to stay home all year because I'm older, because I'm almost 70, and I have disabilities. But younger people have taken care of me and my partner. So there's a lot to be grateful for, to care for each other.
Well, thank you again, ladies. I think we need to wrap it up, but thank you so much. You guys can hang around for a moment and we'll all meet in the backstage. Yeah. But to our live viewers, thank you for joining us. Remember to come out and see the show at History Fort Lauderdale. Look up the details, historyfortlauderdale.org, and we will look forward to seeing you again on April 22nd.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to say before we go to, like on April 22nd, I really would like Lupita to come back and tell us about the work that she's doing with the garden in Immokalee.
Yeah, I want to hear too.
That will be
Come visit.
amazing.
All right. So let's ask her backstage. Maybe she'll say yes.
Yeah. Bye. What do we
Bye.